Fall in Acadiana, I mean, you had Festival of Acadien et Creoles last week. That's always fun. The weather was great for that.
Yeah.
There's the Rice Festival in Crowley. I mean, there's just so many things all going on at the same time, and I'm so happy that the weather is great. Yeah, exactly. You can do hit 3 festivals this week, and you can hit 3 things on the way. So anyway, we are also in a very busy time as far as civic issues go, and elections right around the corner, coming up on November 6th. Is the first election. We have another one in December. Early voting is getting ready to get underway. Lafayette Mayor President Joel Robideaux joins us in studio. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's been a busy time. There's a bunch of back and forth on several different issues. And, I was wasn't reading a crystal ball back in July when I said, okay, guys, we're buckling up because there's going to be a lot happening by the time we get to October, November, and on into December. And at that point, we didn't even know about the utility side of things. So let's start there. That was kind of the headline this week. We know that Bernhard, also known as NexGen, made their proposal to the LPUA last week, made it to the full council this week. Lots of conversation back and forth. It ended with the council asking for you to declare your position on whether or not you would even want a third party involved. Where are you on that? Will you make that declaration, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it's probably best that I give just a little bit of background.
Absolutely.
So in February,
we got time. We got time.
By the way, July, your pronunciation was correct. It has been full throttle since then. But in February of 2018, Terry Huval went to the council, the administrator of LUS, and said, look, here are the future needs. We need to do these upgrades as it relates to generation of electricity, transmission, water, and water and sewage. And that proposal is going to require that to make all these upgrades and do the things that we need to do is going to be about $240 million. And so that was the pitch that came internally from LUS, and the council rejected it and said, nope, we're not borrowing that money. Because then we have to raise the rates to pay for that back. And so we went back and said, okay, well, I mean, it's, the needs for the upgrades are there. They're real. Terry wasn't just like saying, hey, I'm going to go borrow $240 million for nothing. So we know that we've got these future needs of additional capacity for electric generation, which was the lion's share of the 240. Part of that's the coal plant that, just Trump got elected, so it bought us some time that we're not going to have to convert that yet, but we know we will. I mean, it's not going to remain a coal plant forever. So a lot of it had to do with that and then local generation, which we don't currently have. So once that was rejected, we had to say, all right, well, how are we going to address all of these needs? So at that point, I said, well, I had met with the Slimcos, Clecos, Entergys, Bernhardts of the world a year earlier. They all wanted to sell. I said, no, I'm not selling our assets. I'm not interested in doing that because if something goes wrong, we're left with nothing. Bernhardt came back and said, well, what about a management agreement? And I said, well, that's certainly more interesting because I retain ownership of the assets. And so there's some interesting pieces to that. But still didn't act on it, just put it on the shelf. Well, once the February happened in 18, once the council rejected Terry Huval's proposal, I called Bernhard back and said, hey, would you still be interested in talking? And that's when I entered into the letter of intent to say, well, look, you can come in and do your due diligence so that you can craft a proposal, because that's requires a different type of analysis than an outright sale, because they're not going to own anything. So they really needed to understand the operations and if there was going to be efficiencies and what that meant from dollar-wise, So they were in the process of that when, it kind of got leaked out to the media and to the public, which is fine, but certainly there was no information to give, which was unfortunate because all we could say was, yeah, they're looking at it to try to come up with a proposal. Since that time, the council was adamant once it came out there, once your July crystal ball came true, then they said, look, as soon as you have something, we want you to come before the council and present it. So I'm hearing it for the first time that they are, and I'm saying, all right, well, there's elements there that make sense. They're going to, as citizens and as ratepayers, we're going to continue to have our debt serviced. LUS was doing it before. The third-party management company would do it this time. So the debt service, the capital upgrades, the ILOT payments, all of those things would stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
But they think they can run it more efficiently, so there's going to be a little bit more left at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so they calculated that out and said, we think we can give you $140 million now because we're going to earn that much more over the 40 years. Continue to run it and pay all those other things we just named. And we think we can actually lower the rates and still accomplish that.
Mm-hmm. But only for a guarantee of 3 years, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but we've never lowered rates ever. I mean, like LUS has never gone on the council.
Yeah, but we have always been number one with the best rates in this state, or number two.
Well, yeah, probably
we're
two.
Doing fine. It's gone back and forth between 1 and 2 over the years.
Our rates are good, but if you can lower them, you can lower them,
Mm-hmm.
and so.
But that may be for a short term, Mayor. I mean, what if they only do that for a couple of years, and then in order to make money, they decide there's no other way.
But they can't raise the rates if the council doesn't approve it. I mean, the LPUA right now, without the third party, any third party, whether it's Entergy, no third party, as it is now, if LUS wants to raise rates, they go before the LPUA, and the LPUA says yes or no. And that's happened before. Sometimes they said yes.
And sometimes they said no.
And that would stay the same. That would still exist.
I want to go back to when you said, you did enter into the agreement where they could do the due diligence, they could do the research. Hindsight, knowing what you're facing in opposition now, would it have made more sense then to just open up a bid? To let Entergy, to let Cleco, to let Slimco, and all of them do this at the same time as Bernhardt? Because I think that's where people, that's the hang up, because they feel like Bernhardt has gotten a leg up on this whole thing.
Yeah, I think hindsight, you would say.
Then it's easy to look at the relationships. It's easy. Then, that's why the next question is, but why did they? Look who Joel's friends are.
Yeah, and the reason they did is because they were the only ones that said. Now, recently, but when I say recently, I mean a week ago, is the only time that the other guys, they knew about the third-party management, but up until recently, this is the only time they've said, well, yeah, we think we'd be interested in doing that too.
So they knew that Bernhardt was doing.
I think this
background.
Yeah, I think everybody knew. But nonetheless, I'm not trying to defend it. All I'm saying is I think it's healthy that we had the conversation that we had in February, because the reality is we got to generate some more electricity. And so Terry put up that proposal that the council said no. We don't agree with you. So no. So then it's like, all right, so now is it healthy to have a third-party administration conversation? Forget about Bernhardt. Forget that it's them. It could be anybody. It could be all of them.
Okay, so why do you really think we need to have a third-party discussion? Is LUS so bad? Was it run so bad? And if it was run so bad, why didn't you fire Terry Huval?
Well, so the February told me that the council did not believe in the administration's, meaning the LUS administration. So. Did they think it was being run so bad, and they just told Terry, hey, we know more than you do about how to run a utility. So was Terry's proposal that bad? But certainly the council rejected it. Without a doubt. I mean, it was overwhelming. They came back and said, well, look, we'll allow you to do $50 million for the sewer stuff. So, and that doesn't mean that the council thought Terry was doing a bad job, right? But they rejected his... what he felt like was needed for the system. And that's the process. They have that authority. I mean, they are the ultimate authority, whether it's Terry Huval, Jeff Stewart, or a third party. I mean, they have the authority to decide what ultimately happens. And that's as it should be. But you can't say no to this and then no to that and then say, so... where's the generation going to come from? I mean, we may go back to option A. I mean, I feel like it's my job to present them with solutions. Terry Huval, with the administration's support, went to them in February. They rejected it.
But now that there's been clear indication from the LPUA and then the 9-member board that nobody wants to see this happen, these council members have heard over and over and over again from their constituents. It's not popular. People are not interested. They don't want to hear what a third party has to say. So at this point, is that not resonating with you?
Yeah, no. I don't believe that the people have the facts. They still talk about the sale of LUS and all of these things that aren't accurate. And I think that's
a misjudgment, sir. I'm going to be very honest with you. I think the fact that you would say that people don't understand, I think is a clear indication that you're not hearing people. I think people understand clearly. We have always had the best rates or the second best rates in this state. Mm-hmm. Obviously, whoever ran LUS must have done a good job because the man was still there until his own retirement. Mm-hmm. And if things are so bad and some of these things are so bad, why was there no discussion about this 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I think people are very clear on what they want, and I think they do understand.
Yep, and ultimately the council makes that decision. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not, and I told them
But what
early
is your
on,
position now that you've heard the people?
Yeah, I'm never bringing anything to the LPUA. I'm not bringing a contract for anybody without them saying, hey, we feel like this is worth looking into. Mm-hmm. So we just got the proposal. They just made the presentations. And so certainly I think it was Terrio said he's going to bring a resolution to say, look, we're not really interested in the third party, which means we'll go back to discussing option A and say, all right, look, we got to address this generation thing. Sure. So if that's, we can't just ignore it. So let's go back to option A. And if that's what the council and the LPUA say, then that's where we're going. I mean, I'm not going to try to force anything. But as the leader of this community, now that you have heard all of this resistance, wouldn't it behoove you to now stop and say, okay, I'm done with this? But because I think people still get the impression that it's being pushed upon them. Yeah, well, and I don't, coming to them with potential solutions, I don't feel like it's being pushed upon them. I want to make sure that they understand that if there is another option to borrowing money and raising rates, I'm going to bring it, whether it's popular or not. I'm not here to win the popularity contest. I'm saying LUS has been great. It's going to continue to be great. Then why do we need a third party? If they're great and they have been done? If it can be greater. If it allows us to have $140 million to address drainage, to become... But some of the issues that have been suggested that are wrong with LUS, have they not been overplayed, overbloated? Have they not been misrepresented? I'm asking you. I think most everything in that proposal is accurate. I believe that you're talking about somebody. Are they really minute compared to massive issues? What I'm trying to suggest what I'm trying to suggest is if we're the most reliable in the state. Okay, we know where our numbers have been in terms of what we're paying in rates, right? Okay, a third party suddenly can magically maybe do it better. Okay, possibly. But down the line, the people who end up benefiting are the people who have bought into the Barnhart idea. In other words, the people who would be the shareholders in that. Lafayette would be turning away and giving away something that has for so long done its purpose and done it well. Yeah, and you see, I don't understand how you feel like we're giving something away. It's not me. I am sharing questions with you that people have asked to us. I feel like we're retaining all of that. But when somebody else does management and they decide to make decisions that maybe don't benefit the people who built that system and their parents built that system and their grandparents built that system, they're worried about what is the bottom line and am I making a profit? Is that what's really good for Lafayette? Well, I think that ignores that the LPUA is their board of directors. Okay, and that's fine. And the board of directors for a private company is who make, and it is but still us. But if they do management decisions and they have done things on the inside and it's things that have not been as good as what LUS could have done, and then they get themselves in a quagmire, then they go to the LPUA and say, okay, here's what we've done. There's still the potential there for mismanagement. But it's still all the same. It's still our LUS people. That's it's still our LCG employees that are running LUS. Well, let me ask you about those people are worried about that too. I was going to say another aspect of that was in the presentation talking about all the civil service classification. Then we had this meeting this week say they can't make that guarantee. And we've had people who have come on this show and talking about it.
callers, former employees of LUS who have said anyone who comes in here and says they're not going to make a change, that it makes no point for them to even be a different management structure if that's what's going to happen. So to those employees who are adamantly against it because they think they're going to lose their jobs, what do you as the mayor president say? Well,
I would first say they're not going to lose their jobs because we'd never entered into a contract that wasn't ironclad that would allow that to happen.
Yeah, but why the world has lawyers.
Yeah,
because shareholders don't care. They want their money and they want a profit. So if you've got a team of great lawyers on your side, you can finagle out of anything. Can you really make that guarantee that it would be ironclad, sir?
I would say contractually you could, especially with the LPU being.
And is
LPU
that Mr. Barnhart's history, or is that the company's history? Have they had history in the past where things have worked out with other projects, or have other places been left holding the bag because of the people involved in this?
Yeah, and so I would rather focus on, is the third-party management a viable conversation to have, regardless of whether it's Entergy, Cleco, Bernhardt, somebody else from Houston, anybody. Is the third-party management worth having? And
then if that's the real case and that's what we're focusing on,
mm-hmm.
why didn't you do a request for proposals from the beginning?
Well, and
if that was really the issue,
yeah.
Why didn't you do that from the beginning? Why was Bernhardt given all of this extra time, all of it, all of this space? This went on for how many months? 17 months? A year and a half?
All they had was the 60 days. I gave them the due diligence period, and we'll give that to whoever else wants it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give them the same documents, the same RFP. Now, we're not going to bother going down that path if the council says, look, let's not even go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get third-party management off the table. We're not interested in the lump sum. We're not interested in the lower the rate. We're not interested in any of that potential stuff. We want to maintain the status quo, and because we think it's good, and let's revisit option A. If the council says that, then that's where we're going. I mean, they have the authority.
We could fill a 3-hour show with this conversation, and we'll continue to have it up until a decision is made or it comes before the council.
True.
I do want to ask a question before we have to wrap up here for time. Yesterday, you made some news yesterday speaking out against 2 tax measures. Tell us your thoughts. This is for the correctional center and the courthouse, I believe, are
Correct.
the 2. Your thoughts behind that, and are you worried about getting involved? Because when I first saw it, it kind of took me off guard.
No. I think if anybody looks back, they'll see that the council was split on whether to even put it on the ballot. I mean, it wasn't like unanimously the council said, yes, we need to raise taxes. My conversations, with the council leading up to that was, if I'm preparing this budget and I don't have to make cuts or of any significance,
right,
then why are we going to the taxpayers and asking for more money? So just know that if there's no devastating cuts to be made, which there weren't, then do I really need to ask taxpayers for more money? I want to save me asking for taxpayers for new taxes when we desperately need new taxes. And we went through the budget process, made some minor cuts, and made it through where it was manageable. So I just don't think it's the appropriate time when, the economy is as bad as it is and we didn't have to make those cuts.
Can we live up, though, to what is required of us by law for the courthouse and the jail with the funding that we have in place?
We always have. I mean, the jail's funded. We didn't cut the jail at all. The courthouse is funded. This is basically doubling the money that we get for the jail and putting up money for the district courts, the judges at double the amount that they've ever spent. So it would be nice to have the additional revenue and we'd spend it well, but is it necessary? My opinion is different completely from the renewals. Now, when the voters rejected the jail, the existing millage, it was like, hey guys,
state law requires you to do this, right?
That was a desperation, where we need that millage. Now, on the heels of that vote, getting the public to weigh back in and approve the renewal, now we're putting a new one on to double that amount. I just said we don't have to have it. Everything's running. I didn't make any cuts in this year's budget. In fact, the council gave raises. So it's hard when you factor in that we lead the nation in job loss for a couple of years in a row. The economy's still not good, but I didn't have to make any devastating cuts, but we did have enough money to give raises, then it suggests that, well, why would we go back to the taxpayers and ask for more money at this time? Mm-hmm. I can't get there. And so I said, I've been asked, where do you stand on it? And I do believe the public wants me to weigh in on propositions like that. So so that's what I did.
All right. Lafayette Mayor President Joe Robideaux, we appreciate your time this morning. It's
Thank you.
Just the beginning. Obviously, this tax deal will know yay or nay in the next couple of months.
True.
The utilities issue could be a years-long conversation. I hope it's not for your benefit, but it's it's something I think a lot of people view LUS as the one thing that we have that continues to keep giving. And when you have people, we got an email in, and it was very well thought out. It was a former employee of LUS that said, this is a payday loan. The $140 or $170 million is selling ourselves short for the amount of revenue we're going to lose on the back end. And you have to look at that just because of what Barnhart is. It's an investment firm. They wouldn't be doing this to do it for nothing, or I think people
they're
are
not
just
here for our community.
People have pride in what LUS is, so I hope you would take that into account.
There's no question about that.
All right. Thanks for coming in this morning.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
It's 7:04 now. We went a little bit over the top of the hour news. We're going to take a quick break, and Bernie will have local headlines just ahead. You're listening to Acadiana's Morning News.